Hello, my mastermind friends. Thank you so much for being a mastermind member. I really, really appreciate it. And this is the time I get a chance just to talk to you one-on-one about whatever the subject matter is. As a matter of fact, you know what? If you don't mind, I like to take these things off because it's just you and I. You understand? So what I like to talk to you about, I'd like to dig a little bit deeper into the subject of the day. And we were talking about advocacy and capitalism, if you might say. You understand? You can take and help others become, you can get anything out of life you want if you're willing to help others get what they want. And in this case, I'm suggesting that you would use your time and ability to help the community, help people in the community. There's a lot of powerful tools, and actually, surprisingly, you'll make more money using the tools and helping people. If you form your L3C, for example, and you acquire real estate through the tax exempt organization, you don't have to pay property taxes. Isn't that something? You know how much value a property would appreciate if you don't have to pay property taxes? And do you realize that you can do a gift sale transaction under Internal Revenue Code 170, where someone could donate you a certain percentage of the property and get, and you pay for so much? So that means you could take and go to the lender and you own 30% of it already, and you can just refinance and take them out. This is off the hook. And we're going to talk about all of these wonderful tools that you can use, because you first got to make the commitment that you want to help someone. And once you turn that corner, heaven doors open up. And the Lord will, at that point, order our steps in the world. And I admit I am a capitalist. I do like making money, and I've made a whole bunch of money in my life, you understand? I do love helping people. I've built 150 Optimist clubs in the world. I think that's more than anybody else. And I've given away, thousands of scholarships. I think the last time we counted, the Optimist Youth Foundation, which I founded and is the major funder, have given away more than 3,000 scholarships. So I'm happy about that. And so that part might get me in heaven. I'm going to need a lot. So what I want to talk to you about now is skills. Since I've closed $2 billion in deals, you can imagine that I have very skillfully leveraged tools in order to buy real estate without putting up money and taking cash out. Now, there's a lot of ways to do that, and depending on what kind of mortgage you're getting. If you're talking about an FHA loan, you got to be very, very, very careful how you do it, because you don't want to break any rules. So I wanted to engage you, and what we're going to have is in our chat room, we're going to challenge you, our mastermind chat room. We're going to kick that off and start that off. And then we want to talk about these subjects in depth. But I want to kind of give you a little sprinkling of what we're going to be talking about, the ideal of the level. So here's what it is. How can you use commissions, development fees, and fix up for your equity needed? I'm going to say commissions is the easy piece on it, because there's no limit as to what the commission you can really charge, but it needs to be reasonable as far as FHA is concerned. FHA is not going to let you, for example, charge a 40% commission. They would take exception to that unless the price is very, very low. I mean, if FHA is selling something for $2,000 and you charge a $1,500 fee, yeah. If they're selling it for $500, you charge a $1,500 fee. That's 300%. Yes, but if it's something that's going for $100,000, they're not going to allow you to. They would not look kindly or allow you to charge a $60,000 fee. Now, if you're doing a commercial transaction that does not involve FHA, with you and the seller, and it's a land contract, and you want to create equity because you plan to go to the bank later on and finance it, you can charge whatever fee you want to charge. Or better yet, you can put an interim in there and put you a LLC in between, and then you buy it from that LLC. That LLC could be you, could be your colleague, you could be your own grandmother. Now, but let's say if you're dealing with FHA, let's just focus on that for a minute. The question I want to ask you is very simple. FHA will allow, in most cases, 6% seller concessions. What is a seller concession? A seller concession is money that that the seller is allowed to give you as a buyer. The FHA will allow that. FHA 1 to 3.5% down. That's the minimum down payment you have to pay, but you can give seller concessions. So theoretically, you may be able to pay just your 3.5% and nothing else. But I got a couple of questions for you. Suppose that you have a program where you could buy an interest rate down or something like that. Now, the biggest part of the seller concession is the taxes, the proration of taxes. If you put in your purchase agreement, as we have in ours, in our form, and if you join us, you can just go and download these forms. We give you the code. It says no property tax prorations. Well, that's pretty interesting. No property tax prorations. In other words, the seller have to pay the taxes. It doesn't have to be prorated. Is that a seller concession? The good news is that it's not. It's not considered in the formula for a seller concession, but yet that's the major concession. Isn't that big time news? One other question that I want to challenge you on. If you say in our purchase agreement, there's a contingency in our agreement that you can inspect the property and you have X number of days, preferably after you get your mortgage, after you know how much money you got, to really settle the question of fix up and improvements, what you like and what you don't like. We use the word repair and improvements. Can you essentially, is a better question, is seller improvements a concession? The good news is that it is not a concession. Isn't that great news? So we said that the proration is not considered a seller concession, and the repairs are not considered a seller concession. Well, you know, we're getting pretty close to you being able to leverage real estate. If you can take and get improvements from the seller, that's not considered concessions. How much will they allow? And how about the HUD? The HUD 1 is a closing statement that you're going to use at the time of closing. What is that HUD 1 going to say? You think that you're going to write you out a check? Of course they're not going to write you out a check. I like some feedback, and we're going to join on the chat room. And for us to finalize this whole subject matter, I'm going to write a blog, I'm going to put it up, and we're going to have a chat. I just want to hear some feedback from you all. 313-444-9691, or go to Strather Academy Mastermind. Let's join the chat room. Let's talk about it. Let's go over that again. Seller concessions. What is not considered a seller concession? Improvements that the seller is going to make, or if you have no proration of taxes. If you have no prorations, do you want that deal to close June the 15th or July the 15th? That's a huge question. I want you to think about that for a minute. And you got to have the right agreement. You cannot put stuff in additional conditions. They draw everybody's attention. So this is Herb Strather. This is your coach. You are a part of Mastermind, and I'm going to teach you some things that you have never, ever thought about. But I want you to think about what I just told you and chat with me. Herb Strather, I'm signing off. Okay, and let me bring it up one other thing in terms of the seller concessions. Phase 2, we're going to show you now how to take that cash out. I hope you went online and did a little figuring and gave me some comments about what you think. But now let me show you what's fixed to happen. Buckle up.